Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Shri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we'll be discussing from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verses 64 through 66. And the chapter is entitled, The External Reasons for the Appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wonderful topic because we are getting into the mood of Rath Yatra, into the season of Rath Yatra, where we know without our Lord Jagannath, there is no Lord Chaitanya, and without Lord Chaitanya, there's no Lord Jagannath. It just goes hand in hand. So we're very happy to have this class and to prepare our minds, as we get into the Rath Yatra season. And we're happy to have Vrindavaneswari Radhika from ISKCON Philadelphia. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances of Shri Prabhupada.
Please accept mine, all glories of Prabhupada. Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna.
And it's all yours.
Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jabihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astacharya Sat to His Divine Grace E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astacharya Sat to His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikhaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Gita Govardhan Ki Jai. Maya Pradhan Ki Jai. Vrindavaneswari Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. ISKCON Harrisburg Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pracharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desha Tarane. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottama Devam Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadirayat Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we're reading, as Adasuya Prabhu said, we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 3, in the Adi Lila. So I'll read the first two verses, and then the last one we can read together. Shri Anga Shri Mukha Yekare Darashana Tarapapa Chaya Haya Premadana. Anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth of love of Godhead. Anya avatere Shaba Sanya Shastra Sange Chaitanya Krishnera Sanya Ange Upange. In other incarnations, the Lord descended with armies and weapons, but in this incarnation, his soldiers are his plenary parts and associates. This one's in Sanskrit, so we'll read this. I'll read this 3 times, then we can repeat it together. Sado Pashya Srimandrita Manuja Kaya Pranadhitam Bahadbir Girvaner Girisha Paramisthi Prabir Tibi Sabakte Baya Sudam Nijaba Janam Murdam Upashtidam Sa Chaitanya Kemme Punarapi Drisho Yashyati Padam Shado Pashya Srimam Drita Manuja Kaya Pranayitam Bahadbir Gir Vaner Grisha Prameti Prabiripi Svabhakte Bayasudam Nijabajanan Mirdam Upadishan Shatan Chena Kimme Punarapi Dwashor Yashyati Padam Sado Pashya Srimam Drita Banuja Kaya Pranalitam Bahadbir Gir Vaner Girisha Parameshti Prabiriti Sabakte Bya Sudam Nija Bhajana Mridam Upadishan Sa Chaitanya Kimme Punayat Api Drisha Yashyati Padam. This one's tough, the melody, but go ahead and give it a shot.
Hare Krishna. Try to do a little differently because it is tough. No question. Tado Pasya Srimandita Manuja Kaya Pranayitam Bahadbir Givane Girisha Parameshti Prabhitivi Swabhakte Vyasudam Nitya Bhajan Nudram Upadisham Chaitanya Kimme Pune Apidrisho Yashyati Padam.
Well done.
Best I could do.
That's a tough one. Anyone else like to give it a go?
I'm going to try, Prabhu, because it looks like there's extra one word in each of the lines, so it makes it a little difficult.
It throws the melody off a little.
Sadopasya Srimandrita Manujakaya Pranayitam Vahadbir Gir Vanay Grisha Parameshti Prabritibhi Svabhaktebhya Sudam Nija Bhajana Mudram Upadishan Sachetanya Kimme Punar Apidrisho Yashyati Padam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I will try with a different tune. Let's see how it goes.
Okay,
We'll try all the tunes now, Prabhu.
We'll try them all.
Haribo!
Sadopasya Shrimandhrata Manuja Kayaha Pranayatam. One second, I'm having issue with my screen. 1 second. Bahadevir Girivrane Girishta Parameshti Pradharbhi Swabhaktebhya Shuddham Neja Bhajana Mudramupasdisham Sachatanya Kimme Pumar Apidrashor Yashati Padam. Hare Krishna.
Dear Krishna, you are bringing back the mood of Gaur Govinda Maharaj. That's how he
That
chants.
is Govinda Maharaj.
Exactly.
Yep,
I'm just
all
trying
the
to.
way.
I'm sorry, but I'm trying to
Beautiful.
imitate things.
You
Thank you
have
for
really, don't you think so, Vrindavaneswari? Like he has
Beautiful,
brought
yeah.
back, Gaur Govinda Maharaj's mood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's beautiful. So, and this is actually from from a kind of a bhajan from Rupa Goswami. So, I'll read the translation and the synonyms and translation and brief purport. Sada, always. Upashya, worshipable. Shriman, beautiful. Drita, who accepted. Manuja, kaya, the bodies of men. Pranayitam, love. Vahabi, who were bearing. Gi, vani, by the demigods. Girisha, Lord Shiva. Pramameshti, Lord Brahma. Prabhiprithibi, headed by. Sva Bhaktebhaya, unto his own devotees. Sudam, pure. Nija Bhajana, of his own worship. Mudram, the mark. Upadisham, instructing. Sa, he. Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya. Kim, what? May, my. Puna, again. Api, certainly. Drisha, of the two eyes. Yashyati, he will go. Padam, to the abode. Translation and purport by His Grace, Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary men, bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. But will he again be the object of my vision? Purport. This verse is Prathanam Sri Chaitanya Yakshtaka 1 from the Stava Mala of Srila Rupa Goswami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Magana Charanja Shakyananjana Shalakya Chakshar Unmalatamyena Tashrik Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yuna Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadabmayam Dadati Svadvadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Chur Salamaniti Namane Snigta Chaita Surpanata Vagvanam Tarasa Plutan Prabhupada Gata Prananam Bhakti Charapanam. So I'll read the translation again, and then we'll. I actually brought up this particular to this verse, this bhajan. So I'll actually read through it because it's very beautiful. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary men, bearing love for him. He instructs his own. So as it's stated here, this verse is actually from the Stavamala of Rupa Goswami. And the Stavamala is actually a compilation of many of Srila Rupa Goswami's different bhajans and poems and verses. And this one is in volume 1. So there's 6 volumes, I believe 6 volumes in the Stavamala. And the Stavamala means garland of hymns. So that's quite, quite beautiful. So this is a garland of hymns, and this garland of hymns is glorifying. It's a glorification by Srila Rupa Goswami of Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya, and of the different aspects of Krishna, Radharani. So he's bringing in all of these different glorifications, and you can at some point take your time to go through some of the other prayers and hymns that are in here. The one that was brought into this particular verse within Chaitanya Charitamrita is the Pratham it's the Pratham Sri Chaitanya Yakshtaka, which is a glorification of Lord Chaitanya. And so this was actually the verse that was chanted here was actually the third verse in this particular prayer, and that is that he's I'm sorry, it was the first verse, so that's being repeated here. So what I thought I would do is just read through this. This is a really beautiful prayer in general, because it's giving the glorification of Lord Chaitanya, but it's also sharing his opulences. And really, it's really reflecting on the mood that Srila Rupa Goswami is really representing the mood of worship. When will I see him? When will my eyes lay upon him again? He is the worshipable deity of all demigods. And this verse is giving us a beautiful example of this mood of approaching Sri Chaitanya, because Sri Chaitanya is very merciful. He's helping to deliver the fallen souls. This is one of the things that Sri Chaitanya is part of his incarnation, is the fallen souls, the Dina Daya, the fallen souls that are here in this material and in these material energies. He's helping to deliver them. To deliver them where? To deliver them to the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is his role here. And it says in the earlier verses, the verse prior to this, the translation is, in other incarnations, the Lord descended with armies and weapons, but in this incarnation, his soldiers are his plenary parts and associates. And so there's other incarnations of the Lord. So we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we go through the Srimad Bhagavatam, we get a sampling of a few of the incarnations, the ones that were brought in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord, if you think of Lord Parashuram, so he was actually incarnated as a Brahmin, but he actually switched to the Kshatriya because that was his position. He was actually a Kshatriya, even though he was born into a Brahmin family, and he annihilated the family, the lineage of the Kshatriyas 21 times. So this is the Lord Parashuram pastime and this incarnation was really to cleanse the lineage, cleanse the chain. And this is the 21 times that he annihilated the Kshatriyas, that class of leaders and rulers to help clear out that lineage. There was a lot of corruption and a lot of demonic activity. So that was Lord Parashuram's responsibility, and that's why he incarnated there. So you can see this is not the mood of Lord Chaitanya, right? And you have Lord Ram was a king, and he came with all of his kingdom and his associates and his army, and so he had the army of Hanuman, and he had a full army ready. So this is again a different mood. He was a leader, he was a ruler. He was, of course, as Lord Ram, giving that example of a perfect king, a perfect person, perfect husband, a perfect warrior. He was perfect in that way because he's God. But again, you can see the difference in these two examples, the difference between Lord Parashuram, Lord Ram, and then you have this Lord Chaitanya incarnation, which is very merciful. He became just a sannyas. He just walked around preaching the glories. He came in the mood of Radharani, trying to understand Radharani's devotion to himself ultimately, but in the pastimes of Krishna, Lord Krishna and Radharani, he was trying to understand that devotion, that love, that absorption that Radharani had for Krishna. So the first verse in today's reading is, anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth and love of Godhead. And this is a really important concept, because it's again reminding us that the image of God, that the coming in contact with God, with Krishna, is so purifying. It's so purifying. In fact, there's Srila Rupa Goswami wrote a verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the nectar of devotion. There's a verse in there that says, "My dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Keshigat. Casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in three places, appears very bright in the moonlight." So what he's saying here is that if you're very attached to your worldly affairs, if you're very attached to material activities, don't look at Krishna. Don't look at him, because you're in trouble. Anyone that looks at Krishna is free from sin, but why are they free from sin? Because they become so absorbed, so utterly absorbed in Krishna that they give everything up. So if you're utterly attached to material activities and the wealth and the relationships and all these things, don't look at Krishna. This is what Rupa Goswami is saying. This is actually part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Radharani, where one of the gopis, and one of the gopis is giving advice to another gopi. And they're saying, if you look at Krishna, then you'll have to give everything up. If you go down to the river where he's playing and bathing, and you glance upon him, your life will change. You'll have to give everything up, because you won't know to do anything but that. And so this gopi is giving advice to another gopi friend of hers to say, be careful, be very careful what you ask for. Because if you engage in that dynamic, if you open your eyes to Krishna, he will capture you. He will capture you, and then you'll walk away from everything. Right. And so it's a warning, but it's also it's a sweetness to that as well, to say, actually, that's a beautiful thing, that we can become so absorbed and really just walk away. And so Rupa Goswami, like I said, he wrote this wonderful verse that is in the mood of this pastime with the gopis, as a warning, that this is very attractive. So the Krishna's, and there's an article here that says, Krishna is so attractive by his activities, transcendental activities, by his beauty, by his opulence, by his strength, everything. If you read the history of Krishna's activities in the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, they are so attractive. The one automatically becomes attracted, and he forgets all other attraction. This is natural. This is not artificial. Krishna consciousness is so nice that once one is situated in Krishna consciousness, you will forget all nonsense of this material life. So this is a lecture that Prabhupada gave. So this is, and so when you think about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's coming in with that mood of remembering Krishna, forget everything else. Chaitanya was actually born into a family. He got married. He became, for a short time, a grihasta, but he became so attracted to this to God. He decided he was going to become a sannyas, and that was it. And then he was walking around teaching. So this is in this last verse here. He says he instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. So what does it mean he instructs his own pure devotional service? So he's giving that example of his own devotional service to Krishna. He's teaching that to his devotees, but he's God. So it's kind of like what he's saying here. So he is representing a pure devotee but he's God. But he's coming here in the representation of a pure devotee, so that he can show his devotees, show his disciples, show all of us how to do it, right? What a pure devotee looks like, what pure devotional service looks like. And so this instruction that he gives is so much by example. He gives, he will travel far and wide with his associates and give, verbal instructions, but the only instruction that he left behind in writing was the Shikshastika prayers. That's it. So he was so much just providing an example to his disciples, to his devotees. And so in this prayer that Srila Rupa Goswami wrote, he starts off saying he's the most worshipable deity of the demigods. Well, let's dissect that for a minute. So we're going to go and start going into this prayer, and we'll talk a little bit about this prayer. So he's the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. So the demigods worship Mahaprabhu. They worship Lord Chaitanya. They worship Lord Krishna. And oftentimes those who come from a more traditional Hindu background have experience with worshiping a lot of the different demigods. You have Lord, well, you have they're just flying out of my head now, Saraswati, you have Hanuman. There's a whole bunch of different demigods that are worshipped, and ultimately they're worshiping Krishna, they're worshiping Lord Chaitanya, because the demigods, as it's described in Bhagavad Gita, are just the limbs. They're the body parts of the God. They're not the whole. So if we're worshiping the hand, or we're worshiping a foot or a knee, we're not getting the whole. We're only worshiping a small portion of God. And ultimately, it's said in Shastrically that Krishna is so merciful that even though we may have an affinity toward one demigod or another, okay, maybe we worship Saraswati because we want good education for our children, or maybe we want we worship Lord Ganesh to help free us of difficulties in life. So we may have reasons for being attracted to that particular demigod. And it's said in Bhagavad Gita that Lord Krishna is so merciful that he allows for that. And he gives us increased attraction. He gives us increased attraction to that particular demigod, because it's at least pulling us in because the demigod is worshiping Krishna, right? So they're at least getting some benefit there. Better to do that than to go out and, be completely absorbed in material. So it's said that, worship of the demigods, Krishna provides a path for that. Okay, it's not a path back to Godhead. It's not the ultimate path, but it's a path that's a step up from material activities, right? And that's not a horrible thing, but it's not to be encouraged, because ultimately, if we water, given the example in Bhagavad Gita, if we just water the leaves on the tree and not the roots, it's not going to be an effective way to sustain the tree. We have to water the roots of the tree as well. So we're really encouraged. This verse is saying Lord Chaitanya is the most worshipable deity of the demigods. So the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are worshiping him. They're not just worshiping each other. They're not just saying, I'm the top, I worship no one, right? They're worshiping. Lord Shiva is a great, great devotee of the Lord, the topmost devotee of the Lord, and Lord Brahma as well. So we're seeing here, we're getting an understanding that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the form of Krishna is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's the most worshipable deity. So he's now here. He's taken this form for us in the 1400s. So not so long ago, only 500 years ago. That's pretty recent in the scheme of how close we can come to God, right? That's about as close as we know of that we're going to get within 500-year time frame. It's not so bad versus 5,000. So we have this, but he's here to instruct. Okay, this is his main purpose. He's here to instruct. Krishna was here to kill the miscreants, to help his devotees, to reestablish religion. That was the purpose then, right? Lord Parshuram was here to cleanse the Kshatriya class. That was his purpose. We know these different purposes. Lord Dashringa was here to save his devotee and provide protection. So that's very different than in providing instruction. That's not to say they didn't provide instruction, but that wasn't their main emphasis. So Lord Chaitanya is here. He's doing his thing. He's providing instruction to his followers. And he has 4 primary followers, right? We know the Panchatattva of Lord Chaitanya in the center of that Panchatattva. But then he also has the Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. These were some of the followers that were really charged, especially Rupa Goswami was charged with writing things down. That was his job. He was charged with writing and recording and producing literature of the teachings, and to really, take that out into the world. And so this this verse here. So the first verse is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity. So we've got that, right? The second verse in this prayer is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the protector of the demigods, the supreme goal of the Upanishads, the be-all and end-all of the great sages, the beautiful shelter of his devotees, and the essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. Right there. The essence of the love of the lotus-eyed gopis. So that's the mood that he incarnated in, because it's the lotus-eyed gopis. Where are their lotus eyes pointing? Toward Krishna. Yeah, so the gopis, he's here in the essence of the lotus-eyed gopis. He's here taking that mood on. So, and then the next one is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has manifested his own form, which cannot be compared to anything in the material universe. He is very dear to Advaita Acharya, Srivas Pandit. These are some of the Panchatattva. He is very respectful to Paramananda Puri. He takes away the ignorance of the material world and delivers the conditioned souls suffering from the threefold misery. He showered his mercy upon Maharaj Parudra, the king of Orissa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes maddened by tasting the mellows of devotional service. His effulgent form is the abode of sweetness for millions of cupids, and he is the crest jewel of sannyasis. So he becomes maddened by tasting the mellows of devotional service. We know that this is one of the aspects of ecstasy, right? This madness, right? Now, we might see some out there that may put themselves in that space for a show, and maybe they're experiencing some of that. And it's said to not be imitating Lord Chaitanya, but this is a mood of pure ecstasy, of pure devotion, that he's just in madness, because the energies of God are so powerful, right? Even if you think about when Arjuna was on the battlefield with Krishna and he asked to see the universal form of the Lord, he became so overwhelmed that just for a split second, he was just like, whoa, this is too much. I can't, my mind cannot handle this. This is too much for me to see, because the energies of the Lord are so beyond our conception that it can be maddening. And what, for thinking about the love, the deep love, how you can be madly in love with someone, right? There's that phrase that exists in English where someone's madly in love. Okay. But this madly in love is madly in love with God. And that's a different love. That's not lust. The madly in love that we're usually referring to in the material world is usually based on lust. But this madly in love is love of God, right? And that's very different. So, and his form is the abode of sweetness for millions of cupids, and he is the crest jewel of the sannyasis. So the crest jewel, the crest jewel in the crown right here is the jewel that sits right at the top. So he's the topmost sannyasi. He's proven that too. He's proven that he's the topmost sannyasi because he defeated them all, right? And they're like, okay, you clearly know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. When the Mayavadis were trying to educate him and get him to conform, and he's like, okay, and he listened. And then after a while, he just spouted off. He's like, he corrected me. This isn't accurate. So we know that he is the topmost of the sannyasis. Of course he is. He's God. Why wouldn't he be, right? His garments display the effulgence of the sun, and the splendor of his body eclipses the beauty of gold. When will he again become visible before the path of my eyes? So here, Rupa Goswami, in every verse, he's saying, will he again become visible before the path of my eyes? So he's pleading to see him again. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chants the Hare Krishna mantra in a loud voice, the holy name dancing on his tongue as he counts the number of recitations on a beautiful knotted string held in his effulgent hand. His eyes are large and his arms strong, bending as he performs his pastimes, reach down to his knees. So he's chanting the Maha Mantra. This is what he's teaching. So he's displaying, he's demonstrating what he wants us to do. He's counting the numbers of recitations on a beautiful knotted string held in his effulgent hand, japa, right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the topmost of all devotees. Sometimes while walking on the beach, he would see a beautiful garden nearby and mistake it for the forest of Vrindavan. He would thus become completely overwhelmed by ecstatic love of Krishna, begin to chant the holy name and dance. His tongue worked incessantly as he chanted, Krishna, Krishna. Will he again become visible before the path of my eyes? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced down the main road in great ecstasy before Lord Jagannath, the master of Nilachala, who was sitting in his car. Says, what's this? Rath Yatra. Overwhelmed by the transcendental bliss of dancing and surrounded by the Vaishnavas who sang the holy names, he manifested waves of ecstatic love of Godhead. Will he again become visible before the path of my eyes? So I love this verse in here. That's, as Anasuya Prabhu had mentioned, we're in Rath Yatra season. So there's a beautiful, this, it's the seventh stanza of this verse saying about the Rath Yatra experience. And he's overwhelmed by the transcendental bliss of dancing and surrounded by the Vaishnavas who sang the holy names. So anyone ever been there? Yeah, I'm sure. So that's Rath Yatra. They do the parade. That's the dancing, the chanting, and chanting around the carts and glorifying the Lord and bringing in that energy, bringing people in and dancing. So we see this all the time. This is Lord Chaitanya set this example. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became joyful during the loud chanting of the holy names, and he sprinkled the earth with showers of tears. All the hairs on his body standing on end appeared like beautiful filaments of fresh kadamba blossoms, and his body glistened with profuse perspiration. Will he again become visible before the path of my eyes? May the great ocean full of waves of pure love for the two white lotus flowers of the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu become immediately manifested at every moment to whatever pious person reads these 8 most auspicious verses, his pure intelligence shining with faith as he meditates on Lord Gauranga. So that is the prayer, the Pratham Sri Chaitanya Yashtaka one. So feel free to look it up. It's on KK Songs. And you can also look up any of the other Rupa Goswami from the Stavamala. They have them all listed. They have 1, 3, and 1, 2, 5, and 6 are available. And like I said, it's not just the one verse. So each volume has 15 or 20 prayers in it. So you get some really good nectar there from Srila Rupa Goswami. And so I wanted to kind of bring it all back to the fact that he's teaching, and what this verse says at the end, what this verse says is that he instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. And we know that even though we're not Lord Chaitanya, when we also instruct the devotional service, we instruct the teachings of bhakti, that we too gain benefit. And in Bhagavad Gita 18:68, Yadidam paramam guyam mad bhakteshva adihasyati bhaktim maya parim kritva mam evahyati asham saya. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So Krishna said it himself. He told us exactly, if we also explain this secrets, we explain bhakti to others, that we too will attain pure devotional service and at the end go back to Godhead. And so Lord Chaitanya is setting that tone. And we know that this whole chapter is explaining the reason that he's here. This chapter is explaining the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya to us and helping us to understand what to do, helping us to understand how to worship the Lord, the mood to worship the Lord in. And so I really just wanted to bring it back to those main points of how can we in our own lives bring this worship of Lord Chaitanya closer into our hearts. How do we take these instructions of Lord Chaitanya How do we bring this into our daily lives? Well, we know we have japa. Japa is the tool that is given to us to help remember, to help us connect our hearts to the Lord, to help us practice in that devotional activity. And this is a practice. Bhakti yoga is a practice. So if we don't practice, we're not going to get better, just like anything else. So the daily practice of hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam. So if we hear classes, we hear kirtan, we hear other lectures and recordings, we read and we chant. We chant as much as we can throughout the day. These things, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated, will gradually bring us home. They'll gradually bring us back home to Godhead. And as we become more and more absorbed in the holy name, become more and more absorbed in that relationship, then the material hankerings start to dissipate. Because unfortunately, we can, we don't have God standing in front of us as the form right now. We have the deities, which is what the mercy of Krishna has brought us, is we do have the opportunity to go to the temple and have deity worship. But we don't have Lord Chaitanya standing right in front of us. But we have Lord Chaitanya in our heart. We have Krishna in our heart. So seeing the vision, being completely taken aback and just completely being free, we have that opportunity through the path of bhakti. Like I said, we don't have that immediate opportunity to see Krishna or see Lord Chaitanya literally right in front of us, talking to us the way Arjuna did, or the way that Rupa Goswami did. That's just where we are. But we have bhakti, and we have a process. So if we so choose, right? Because it's a choice. This is not like a prison camp where you have to march forward and everyone's staying in line. But if we so choose, this is a path of choice. This is free will. If we so choose, we can endeavor on the path of bhakti and take steps toward our devotional life and take steps closer and closer to Krishna. And Prabhupada has very nicely laid out a path that we can follow. And that's the process, because Prabhupada didn't make this up, right? Where did Prabhupada get this from? Well, Prabhupada got it from his spiritual master, who got it from his spiritual master, who got it from his spiritual master, who descended down from Lord Chaitanya. So we've got a pretty close connection to God in terms of the wisdom and the process. And if we so choose to take to it, there's steps laid out that can help us in our path of bhakti. So I thought I would leave it here, just to leave a couple of minutes for any reflections or questions or corrections, because there's plenty of mistakes as always, or anything that you'd like to add.
Thank you so much, Vrindavaneswari. Such a nice class, actually. And I really like this is actually a very powerful translation, because actually, as you were speaking in, throughout your class, I was really meditating on the chapter, the title of the chapter, right? The external reasons of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, and trying to put that together with this translation. And I'm thinking, I said that there are many external reasons, but one of the reasons, at least what's coming to my mind, is that, one of the reasons is, will Lord Chaitanya be the object of my vision? How can we get caught? And then when you mentioned, if you don't want to become a devotee, don't even look at the face of Govinda. and I was thinking, wow, that is also another reason of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, because once you look at the Lord, you're caught, and that's one of the reasons that, you look at him and that's it, you're caught. So I was really meditating and really reflecting on that point that you said, that when we look at the face of Lord Govinda, that's it, we're caught. So if you want to be materialistic, don't even look at Govinda.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. And I was really liking how you said that. I was really, thinking, wow, that's pretty powerful. That's really, really powerful, because they just, that's the reason, one of the reasons they just catch you, and once you're caught, there ain't no turning back. So I was really liking that point. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's Rupa Goswami again. And that particular reflection, or that verse is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-239. So
Okay.
in case you were wanting to reference that.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. 1-39. Thank you. Very nice. If would like to ask devotees, yes, Dear Krishna, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. Thank you for such a wonderful and poetic class. It was really, very, very sweet. So you were also mentioning about the process of this devotion that we have got. So recently I was hearing, and I heard that most unfortunate are not the ones that are not in this process of bhakti, but those who get, this process and unable to stick to it or leave, especially this moment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. They are the most unfortunate, the ones who are not able to sustain there, right? So just wanted to understand that how can we keep that in mind, that what we have got is real.
I'm losing you a little bit there, dear Krishna Prabhu, but I think I got your question. Hopefully we didn't lose him. Oh,
I
And
think it's his
especially when
connection.
we,
Oh, there he is.
Study and hear about these, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, which are driving. Not sure my question is.
you were breaking up a lot there. So I'll do my best to kind of answer what I heard. I'm so sorry, Prabhu. So it seems like your connection is a little unstable today. But how do we remember that? How can we be reminded that what we have is really the best process, and kind of continue our affection and connection to Lord Chaitanya? And so how do we remember that what we have is the best process? Well, I think that comes down to the first step of the stages of bhakti, which is Shraddha. We have to have faith in the process to remember that it is it's real. So there's a degree of faith, and then with faith we can have that the anartha nivritti, the sadhu sangha, and eventually we will develop that taste for it. But in the earlier stages, the faith is in the process, and having that sadhu sangha, that association with devotees is going to help anchor our realization of this path. And ultimately, the more that we have our own experiences in this path, I think that will also help anchor us in the understanding that we have something very real in our fingertips here that can deliver us to Krishna. So the continued practice, the endeavoring, right, with enthusiasm, as we know, is one of the recommendations. So if we endeavor enthusiastically, then we will do that with faith, and over time we will have experiences, and we will start to cleanse our heart. Cheto Darpana Marchana, it's the clearing the heart, the mirror of the heart, so that we can have that better vision. So these are all the steps and the stages that are recommended. So if we have a true interest, if we have a true desire, then we endeavor. And with that endeavor, then we will continue to grow and become better bhaktas and bhaktins, right? But it comes from that goal, right? So it's priyojana, that's that we want to have that focus. We can have a goal to have $100,000 in our bank account. And so we will make the endeavor to save, to make good investments, to earn more money, and that will be our focus. If we have the goal to become more saturated with love of God, then we will endeavor relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is God. So whether we choose to focus our relationship there, or if we focus on the incarnation as Krishna, the opportunities are there for us to deepen our bhakti. And Lord Chaitanya, when we really meditate on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, by really, if we want to chant the Shikshastika prayers every single day, that's an excellent way to keep Lord Chaitanya in our heart, because those are the words spoken by Lord Chaitanya, just like the Bhagavad Gita are the words spoken by Krishna. So if we want to really keep that relationship and deepen that relationship with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna, the first thing is, in my opinion, is that we meditate on those incarnations of God through their own words. And so the Shikshastika, the Bhagavad Gita, chanting the whole, the Maha Mantra every day. And so those will continue to fix us up. And then receiving guidance from our guru, if we have a guru that's, here. And if not, we always have Prabhupada's words deeply to rely on, because his words are so pervasive. And so I don't know if that answers your question, Prabhu. Sorry. Great. Any other?
That was a very nice question there, Krishna, because
Very
I have to agree. Yeah, very nice. Because, I think sometimes, when we join the movement and we become part of the movement, we take it for granted that we'll be able to wing it. But then we forget that every day that we are being tested, as you said, on our faith, how committed we are, how much we're going to be committed, how long we want to be committed, and how we can carry continue with the process. It's not just 1 year, 1 day, it's for lifetime, and I think I'm trying to remember, I think Srila Prabhupada says we should not be surprised how many people join the movement. I'm trying to paraphrase what he said. I'm trying to remember. We should be surprised how many stay in the movement. I think something like that Srila Prabhupada said. So yeah, it goes back to your question there, Krishna Prabhu, that it is really thought-provoking, I think, to really build that faith, to stick to the process. And Bhakti Swami always says to all his disciples, he adds a fifth rules and regulation at the initiation, right? Not to leave ISKCON is what I was told. So yeah, we just have to commit to the process and really build a faith. So that way we don't get waver, because there's so much out there, I feel, that can really test our faith and our commitment and our dedication and what have you. So many distractions, from the smallest to the largest, and sometimes we are not aware that our faith is being tested, our commitment, our dedication is being tested, but it is in the smallest of all ways. So yeah, thank you for that answer, Vrindavaneswari. Very, very good answer, and thank you for the wonderful, strong question there, Krishna.
Yeah, it's a
very,
great
very
question.
nice.
Thank you.
Very good question. Absolutely. Yes. Any other questions from devotees trying to see a chat that came through? Yes, my Devi is serving Krishna very nicely.
She
by
is. She's a
coming
great
all
servant.
over us. She's a great servant.
And she will be happy to take our desires and lead us where they want to go.
Yes. She is the Lord's servant, and her only aim of life and goal, her only goal is to test us to see how really we want to go back to the Lord, pretty much. That's her only, duty, I think. But yes, that was very nice, dear Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would like to ask devotees, have any other questions, any comments, any reflection, anything? Yes, Parikshit, go ahead.
Krishna, talk on the basis about speaking about Maya. There's a sweet part of Maya, Yoga Maya.
I love it. Yeah.
Yoga Maya is a trickster,
Yeah.
transcendental trickster. So I figured I'll just add that to it, so we don't think of Maya every time as something negative or we have to be careful of. Yes, most of us in jail, we're trying to get back, so we get the tests from Mahamaya. But Yoga Maya is gladly involved in the pastimes of Krishna,
Absolutely.
tricking the pure devotees. That's the
Absolutely.
sweet part of it.
I love the Brahma Samhita verse. I think it's verse 46, roughly, that gives a description of Maya and Yogamaya as, kind of the different sides of the same coin. And how when, Maya will work with us, work to engage us in our material activities and facilitate those activities. But if we once we turn our heads to Krishna, Yogamaya then comes in and takes over. And then Yogamaya is then in charge of facilitating our relationship with the Lord. So it's that Maya and Yogamaya are the same. They're the two sides of the coin, different of the same coin. It's just where our attention is being placed. And if our attention is being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord, Yogamaya will happily facilitate that. That is, part of her role. And, if we suddenly turn away and we're looking toward material energies, then Mahamaya comes in, the coin flips. Mahamaya is like, oh, sure, no problem. But Yogamaya might say, like, hold on. They were kind of interested in Krishna. Let's see if we can get them back on track. So it's the same. It's just two aspects of the same, energy.
You said, Prabhu, that's Brahma
Hare
Samhita verse
Krishna.
46, Prabhu, you said? Around there?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Good. That's good to know. Thank you.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, that's a good point that Parikshit made.
Brahma Samhita, what chapter?
Brahma,
5?
let me see if real quick, I'm going to see if I can find it, because it's
Where we chant the Lord's, the Brahma Samhita, where the devotees chant, usually it's all chapter 5.
yeah,
I think.
and I'm pretty sure it's
546.
546. I'm going to say
Okay.
around there. Here it is, 44, I think.
Okay.
But it is chapter 5 though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's 44, maybe.
It's around the 40, so at least
Yeah,
we can
somewhere in
go
there.
through. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good to know. Yeah, and I'm glad that Parikshit mentioned that sometimes we look at Maya negatively, but actually she is, and the assistant of the Lord, working for the Lord to get us back. She's not Satan, as we call it, but she's the servant of the Lord, helping us to get back, to the Lord, and not trying to test, just like, if you think about school, right? We get all this tests, and the teacher is not giving us difficult questions just to make our lives, hell. He or she is testing us to make sure that we understand the knowledge to go to the next grade, pretty much. So that's how I remind myself, I say, okay, good try, Maya. You just caught me. So that was good. Yes, thank you. Amazing. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, reflections, anything that's coming that you would like to share? Any, anything? Just yes, dear Krishna. I'm thinking, dear Krishna, that you forgot to lower your hand.
I think so.
I think so. Just don't want to ignore him. So if there isn't, we thank you all for joining us, and thank you for this sweet discussion. Very, very sweet, very poetic class, very thought-provoking. Just nice. It's a nice thought for us to think about as we are into the Rath Yatra season. And like we said, the Rath Yatra season involves Lord Jagannath and Chaitanya, both. And one cannot do without the other. So definitely this is a beautiful time to meditate on these prayers and the beauty of Lord Chaitanya. And we thank you all for joining us. Vanchakaptibhyascha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavinebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Vrindavaneswari Prabhu.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hari Bol.
Krishna.
Have a wonderful day.
Quick thing before you go. You said Stavamalas, but garland of hymns?
The garland of
hymns.
Yes, it's the
I think
garland
so.
of hymns.
Okay. So, Hare Krishna.
KKSongs.com.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Hare
welcome.
Krishna.
Hare Bol.